This is World Formula 4 powerboat racing. It's a dangerous high-speed sport. The World Championships attract competitors from around the world, sportsmen of outstanding driving skill. One of these speed demons is the Netherlands' own champion, Ronald den Hartog. Ranked 4th in the world, Ronald has survived in a sport that's no stranger to death. This staying power has enabled him to retain the Dutch powerboat champion title for more than 7 years.
It all started about 10 years ago when I met Ronald as a normal customer in my shop. And he came and he said, I want to drive a race boat. I said, oh, just buy one. He said, well, where can I buy one? I said, I saw one a few weeks ago. And he said, well, I will look. But I thought it won't come so far. So after 2 hours he came back and he said, I bought one. So now we can race. Then I told him, you're not allowed to race when you're not a normal pilot. So he went for that part of the boat racing. And I started already to prepare his boat for the first race because we knew where the first race was. It was 3 weeks later. And then we did our first race. And that's how it started, the whole story of powerboat racing from Ronald den Hartog.
It doesn't matter what kind of race. The moment he's going into the boat, he will be a different person. I know his mind is only with the boat and the race.
He loves the good things in life. He's a famous guy in the local pubs, but when he's in his boat at the race, he changes completely. It's sort of push the button and he's another guy.
Ronald's family have lived with his obsession for speed. They understand that his need for speed and his desire to win define his personality.
Ronald was always interested in powerboat racing, always from the beginning, from he was a very little boy.
I'm very proud of him, yes. He's a hard worker and he does everything for his sport.
Ronald has an obsession with boats and with speed, especially with speed. I mean, when we are looking at the television on Formula 1 for cars or boats, he likes everything what's going fast. So I think that's his dream, and his dream especially is to be one-time world champion. So I think that that's a double obsession.
It's also a highly dangerous obsession. Several promising racing careers have ended with accidents. And it's not a sport which will support him in his old age. As an insurance policy against accidents and aging, he and his wife Yolanda run a successful light engineering firm. The company produces signs for businesses all over the world. He runs his racing operation like a small business. He's built up a hand-picked team of engineers, designers and boat builders, all of whom share his obsession and will to win. To the untrained eye, the only distinguishing feature between the highly refined crafts of Formula 4 are the sponsors' logos that emblazon the boats. But to the devotees of the sport, the name Ronald den Hartog means courage, determination and a rare driving talent. Formula 4 is the fastest growing class within the sport of power boating. 64 boats entered the 1995 World Championships in Groningen, Northern Holland. Although, after a day of special trials, only 24 qualified for a position on the starting grid. Competitors ranged from all over with a strong Norwegian, Italian and German contingent.
I'm really looking forward to the World Championships. Every year, actually. Because it's We prepare more, we are more motivated, we test more than for any other race. Every year.
Despite the many hours of testing and preparation that go into a race like the World Formula 4 Championships, danger is a constant companion. The start of a race is one of the most dangerous periods. With 24 boats lined up at the starting grid, each hoping to pull ahead and take the lead, there's a constant danger of high-speed collision.
What happened in Sweden one time, in the first heat, I was very, very fast. And just as I was, I set the boat for the corner, and I was half cornered. And the fool came straight over my boat. He just missed my head, went over the top of my engine, and then he sank. That was the only nice part.
I worry about Ronald when he's racing a lot of times, but especially with the World Championship, it's always a little bit difficult and much worse because there's a lot of stress and he's always working around the boat and the only thing in his life is the boat at that time. So it's always, a lot of times it's very difficult because the moment when he's racing, the moment when he's starting, it's the most worrying time for me. Because there are going so many boats at that time, and then I have something like, oh. But I like it also. It's not that I said I don't want it or something.
Ronald's dedication to his boat follows an old nautical tradition of infatuation between pilot and vessel. His boat has a hardwood substructure and a plywood skin. The tips of the twin hulls are formed from collapsible fiberglass, increasing safety in collisions. The safety cockpit is constructed from carbon Kevlar fiber, light but strong. The blue foam insert behind the cockpit increases buoyancy in accidents. The shape of the airfoil cowling, height and angle of the engine were all dictated by Ronald.
Inside the boat we have the gasoline tank. We have the main switch, the battery, trim pump, and a trim cylinder.
The engine can be angled or trimmed during a race so as to control the angle and height of the boat in the water. The steering wheel is linked directly to the engine by external cables.
Because this is a brand new engine, we run it in a couple of laps and it has been warmed up. We have to recheck the torque for the head bolts. So first I take out the spark plugs.
During the shakedown run of the new boat, the engine achieved operating temperature for the first time and then cooled again. This first use of the engine causes the tension on the head bolts to lessen.
Well, I set these bolts to 3.75 kilos. It's more than normal, but well, this is a racing engine and it's brand new, so it has to be very good. Also because we have a high compression, more than a normal engine. In this class, the S850, we use a standard engine. It's a 3-cylinder 2-stroke with separate carburetors on each cylinder. And we are modified it a little bit. It's in the rules, but we need to do that to be a champion. Yeah, Ronald, start.
RP checks that the compression ratio within the 3 cylinders is uniform. He finds that the compression is off the scale, running at about 15 bars.
Yeah? It's perfect. They're all the same.
As the boat is lowered into the test lake near Amsterdam, her pilot is aware that it's not just the boat that's being tested.
Okay.
Designed to fit Ronald, the cockpit doesn't have a normal seat. The pilot sits directly on the hull so that he can feel the slightest movement of the boat. Ronald uses racing fuel in his boat, which is composed of 130 octanes, 35 octanes higher than a normal petrol car would use. This high octane content allows for a smaller ratio of fuel to oxygen, thus increasing the burn temperature and generating more power from the engine. The boat handles well on these initial tests, but Ronald detects a power drop-off occurring at high speeds. This is a symptom of fuel starvation. In an attempt to overcome this problem, Ronald and Api fit an additional fuel pump and fuel lines to the engine to circumvent the apparent starvation problem within the system. They remain uncertain if fuel blockage is the real cause or merely the symptom of another problem. Relaunching the boat on a test lake, Ronald tries the new fuel system under conditions similar to those expected during the forthcoming World Championships. Groningen, the race site for the competition, is renowned for rough water, and fortunately, so is this test lake. Reaching speeds of 170 kilometers an hour, it seems as though the fuel starvation problem has been solved. Ronald needs to see how hot the engine's getting. Water is the main coolant. It's taken into the engine through a small vent on the underside of the port sponson. This creates a regular controlled flow of coolant into the engine. Ronald and Api remove the spark plugs. A colored deposit on the plugs reveals to the practiced eye the burn temperature within the engine. Seeking an optimum burn of approximately 75 degrees Celsius, Ronald sees that the plugs are igniting at close to the optimum temperature. They try running more tests.
I'll try to explain to you what we are testing now. We are starting from the pontoon, that engine, go over to the turn buoy, and then stop the stopwatch. And we do that 2 times. So we can have an average, and then switch propeller, and so on till we have tested all propellers. That's how we are going to do it, and we measure the times 1 by 1.
Each propeller costs around $8,000 US. The differences in design are subtle, but a particular propeller design, when matched correctly to a boat, will reduce vibration and increase speeds by up to 20%. After 6 cold starts under simulated racing conditions, they find that the fastest propeller brings the time out to the 800-meter turn buoy down to 23 seconds. Having run the engine for another hour, they check the burn temperatures once again. The special platinum electrodes on the spark plugs are the wrong shade of brown. One of the fuel jets is too large. Removing the carburetors, they change the fuel jet in the middle cylinder only to a smaller size of 0.9 millimeters. This smaller fuel jet will allow less fuel into the engine, enabling a higher oxygen to fuel ratio, creating a higher burn temperature and allowing for greater speeds.
170, yeah.
Taking the boat out for a final time, they believe that the ultimate engine balance has been achieved. The boat tops 171 kilometers per hour, bringing the time for a complete circuit of the 1,600-meter course down to just under 44 seconds.
It's really perfect. We found 100 less more. I'm pleased.
But despite a successful day's testing, there's trouble ahead.